Marcus Titan Stone grabbed the 73-year-old man by the throat and slammed him against the concrete wall so hard that everyone heard the crack. Blood ran down from the old man's gray hair. 300 inmates watched. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The guards stood frozen with their weapons lowered. "Welcome to Blackstone, Grandpa." Titan laughed, squeezing tighter. "You're mine now. Everyone here is mine." The old man didn't struggle, didn't beg, didn't even close his eyes. He just stared. And in that moment, Marcus Titan Stone made the biggest mistake of his life, because he had just put his hands on a man who had killed more people than everyone in Blackstone combined. Subscribe to my channel. Comment below which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story reaches. Now let me tell you what really happened. The bus carrying Walter Crane pulled into Blackstone Federal Penitentiary while most inmates were still sleeping. He sat in the back seat with his hands cuffed and his ankles chained. 73 years old. Gray hair, thin frame, a slight curve in his spine. He looked like somebody's grandfather who had taken a wrong turn and ended up in hell. The guard sitting across from him hadn't blinked in 20 minutes. "You're staring," Walter said. The guard flinched. "Sorry, it's just, you don't look like you belong here." "Where do I look like I belong?" "I don't know, a library, a park, anywhere but maximum security federal prison." Walter turned his head slowly to look at the guard. His eyes were calm, too calm, the kind of calm that made people uncomfortable without knowing why. "Looks can be deceiving," he said. The guard wanted to ask what that meant. He didn't. The bus stopped. The doors opened. Heat poured in like an open furnace. Arizona in August. The kind of heat that made men crazy. The kind of heat that turned concrete into cooking surfaces and prisons into pressure cookers. 2 guards escorted Walter off the bus. His chains clinked with every shuffling step. Other inmates being processed that morning stopped to stare. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. One man, a muscular 20-something with gang tattoos covering his neck, called out, "Hey, Grandpa, you sure you're in the right place? Senior Center is down the road." Laughter erupted. Walter didn't react. Didn't turn. Didn't acknowledge the comment at all. He just kept walking. Processing took 3 hours. Fingerprints, photographs, medical examination. The doctor, a tired woman in her 50s, checked his vitals and frowned. "Your heart rate is remarkably low," she said. 42 beats per minute. That's athlete level. I try to stay calm. At your age in this situation, most people's hearts would be racing. Walter shrugged. What's there to be nervous about? The doctor stared at him for a long moment. Then she wrote something in her chart and moved on. The psychological evaluation was next. A young psychiatrist named Dr. Reeves sat across from Walter with a clipboard and a practiced smile. "How are you feeling today, Mr. Crane?" "Fine." "Any anxiety about being here?" "No." "Any concerns about your safety?" "No." Dr. Reeves made a note. "You seem remarkably composed for someone entering a maximum security facility." "Should I be crying?" "Most people show some emotion." Walter leaned forward slightly. "Dr. Reeves? I've been in worse places than this. I've seen worse things than anything these walls contain. This is just another room. These are just more people, and I'm just an old man serving his time." Dr. Reeves felt a chill run down her spine. She couldn't explain why. "Is there anything in your background that might put you at risk here? Any enemies? Any affiliations?" Walter smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "My background is classified doctor. And as for enemies..." He paused. "Let's just say anyone who was my enemy isn't around to cause problems anymore." Dr. Reeves stopped writing. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm tired. Can we finish this?" She wanted to push further. Something about this man set off every alarm in her professional training, but she also felt on some instinctive level that pushing Walter Crane would be a mistake. "We're done," she said quietly. They gave him an orange jumpsuit 2 sizes too large, shoes that didn't fit, a thin mattress, a metal toilet, and an assignment to Block D. The guard escorting him hesitated at the entrance. "Block D is rough," he said. "Real rough. Maybe I can talk to someone, get you moved to a softer." "Block D is fine." "Mr. Crane, you don't understand. There's a man in there named Titan Stone. He runs this block. He runs most of the prison, actually. New inmates, especially older ones. They don't do well." Walter looked at the guard, really looked at him. The guard felt like he was being examined, measured, assessed. "What's your name?" Walter asked. "Henderson." "Tom Henderson?" Tom, I appreciate the concern, but I've been dealing with men like Titan Stone for longer than you've been alive. I'll be fine. Henderson wanted to argue, wanted to explain that Titan wasn't like other bullies. Titan was a monster, a killer, a force of nature that couldn't be reasoned with or avoided, but something in Walter's eyes stopped him. Good luck, Henderson said finally. I don't need luck, Walter replied. I never have. He walked into Block D. The noise hit him first. Hundreds of voices echoing off concrete and metal, shouting, laughing, arguing, the constant background soundtrack of men trapped together with no hope and nothing to lose. Then the noise stopped. It didn't fade. It stopped, like someone had hit a mute button. Every single inmate in Block D turned to look at the old man shuffling through the entrance. For 3 seconds there was absolute silence, then someone laughed. Holy shit, they're sending us grandpas now. The dam broke. Voices exploded from every direction. Hey, old-timer, you lost? What did he do? Steal a wheelchair? $20 says he doesn't last a week. I got 10 says he doesn't last a day. Walter kept walking. His eyes moved constantly, taking in everything. Every face, every gesture, every small detail that most people would miss. He counted exits, noted guard positions, identified the men who laughed and the men who didn't. He cataloged everything. Raymond Collins watched from the second-tier railing. 61 years old, 28 years in the federal system. He had seen thousands of men walk into prison for the first time. They all had the same look, fear trying to hide behind bravado, confusion trying to look like confidence. This old man had neither. Collins gripped the railing tighter. Raymond? Jimmy Santos appeared beside him. 54 years old, connected to every major gang in the system. He had survived this long by knowing things. You see what I see? I see an old man. Bullshit. Look at his eyes. Collins looked. The old man was passing directly below them now, and for just a moment, Walter Crane looked up. Their eyes met. Collins felt his blood turn to ice. Those weren't the eyes of a scared old man. Those were the eyes of a predator walking into a room full of prey. Jesus Christ, Collins whispered. Who is he? Santos asked. I don't know, but I've only seen eyes like that twice in my life. Both times a lot of people ended up dead. Walter reached his assigned cell. He stood in the doorway for a moment, examining the small space. Metal bed, metal toilet, small window. Nothing else. He stepped inside and sat down on the bed. Then he waited. He didn't have to wait long. The footsteps announced themselves long before their owner arrived. Heavy. Deliberate. The kind of footsteps that expected the world to get out of their way. Each impact echoed through the corridor like a drumbeat. Other sounds followed. Softer footsteps. Multiple sets. Men falling into formation behind their leader. The shadows arrived first. Then the man. Marcus Titan Stone filled the doorway like a wall of flesh and violence. 6 feet 7 inches. 280 pounds of muscle built through obsessive training and prison food. Veins roped across his arms. Scars decorated his knuckles. A heavy chain wrapped around his right fist. Not as a weapon. As a statement. I am my own restraint. I decide the rules. Behind him stood 4 men. His lieutenants, his enforcers. Each one a killer in their own right. Each one absolutely loyal to the giant in front of them. Stand up! Titan's voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Power that real doesn't require volume. Walter remained seated. The corridor began to fill. Inmates pressing against bars. Climbing on beds for a better view. Word spread through the block in seconds. Titan was making his introduction. Everyone wanted to watch. I said stand up, old man. Walter looked up at Titan. His expression hadn't changed. Calm, patient, almost curious. Why? The question hung in the air. Behind Titan, his lieutenants exchanged glances. Nobody asked Titan why. Nobody questioned Titan about anything. Because I told you to. That's not a reason. Titan's eye twitched. Just slightly. Just enough to notice. You have 3 seconds to get on your feet and show some respect. 1. Walter didn't move. 2. The inmates watching held their breath. Theodore. Marcus Anthony Stone, Walter said. His voice was quiet. Conversational. Like he was discussing the weather. Born March 14, 1991, Oakland, California. Mother deceased overdose, you were 11. Father unknown. First arrest at age 11. Aggravated assault. You beat a classmate so badly he lost his left eye. Titan's mouth opened, nothing came out. First confirmed kill at 19. Jerome Washington, Richmond, California. You used a pipe. It took you about 4 minutes. You told people he disrespected you. The truth is, he reminded you of your father, or what you imagined your father might look like. Howless. Second kill at 22, third at 23. You were arrested at 25 for armed robbery because murder was never proven. You've been in Blackstone for 9 years. You control the drug trade. You have 7 guards on payroll and 3 more who look the other way. 14 months ago, you drowned an inmate named Robert Chen in a toilet. Made it look like suicide. The warden knew. He didn't care. Titan stood frozen. His lieutenant stood frozen. The entire corridor stood frozen. How do you know that? Titan's voice cracked. Who the fuck are you? Walter tilted his head slightly, like a teacher considering a student's question. I'm nobody. Just an old man with a good memory. Bullshit. Nobody knows that stuff. Nobody. I know many things, Marcus. I know things about everyone in this prison. I know things about the guards. I know things about the warden. I know things that would destroy careers and end lives if they became public. Walter stood up slowly. His chains clinked softly. But I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm not here to take your throne. I'm not here to disrupt your business. I just want to serve my time in peace. So here's what I propose. You leave me alone. I leave you alone. Everyone goes about their business. Everyone searches. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Titan laughed. It was a harsh sound. Forced. The laugh of a man trying to reclaim control of a situation that had slipped away from him. You think you can come into my house and make demands. You think because you know some names and dates that I'm going to be scared of you. He stepped into the cell. His bulk filled the space. Let me explain how things work here, Grandpa. I don't care what you know. I don't care who you think you are. In this building, I am God. I decide who eats. I decide who sleeps. I decide who lives and who dies. He grabbed Walter by the throat. The movement was fast, brutal. 1 second Walter was standing. The next second he was lifted off his feet. His back slammed against the concrete wall. The impact echoed through the corridor. Blood immediately began running from a wound on the back of Walter's head. You feel that? Titan squeezed. That's reality. That's what happens when you forget your place. Walter's face was turning red. His feet dangled inches off the ground. His hands hung at his sides. He didn't struggle. Didn't claw at the hand choking him. Didn't even blink. Collins pushed to the front of the watching crowd. His heart was pounding. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. He had seen men choked before. They always struggled. Always fought. Always showed some survival instinct. This old man showed nothing. Titan, Collins called out. Titan, wait. The giant didn't turn. Mind your business, Raymond. Something's not right. Let him go. You giving me orders now. You want to be next. Collins stepped back. He knew better than to push, but his eyes never left Walter. Never left those calm, measuring eyes that hadn't changed expression even as the life was being choked out of them. Those weren't the eyes of a victim. Those were the eyes of a man waiting for something. I'm going to make an example of you, Titan growled, his face inches from Walter's. Everyone in this prison is going to see what happens when someone disrespects me. They're going to find your body in the morning and they're going to... Walter's hand moved. Nobody saw it clearly. One moment his hands were hanging limp at his sides. The next moment 2 fingers were pressed against the side of Titan's neck. Just 2 fingers. Just a touch. Titan's arm went dead. Not weak, not tired. Dead, like someone had cut the nerve, like the limb had stopped existing. Walter dropped to his feet as the giant's grip vanished. He landed softly, barely making a sound, and took 1 step back. Titan stumbled. His right arm hung uselessly at his side. He stared at it in shock, trying to move fingers that wouldn't respond. What? His voice came out strangled. What did you do to me? Brachial plexus nerve cluster, Walter said calmly. Temporary paralysis. Feeling will return in approximately 4 minutes. He straightened his jumpsuit, wiped some blood from his neck. I told you, I don't want trouble. The corridor had gone completely silent. 300 inmates stood frozen. Guards who had gathered to watch stood frozen. Even the air seemed to have stopped moving. Titan's lieutenants exchanged terrified glances. They had seen their boss break men in half. They had seen him beat people to death with his bare hands. They had never seen anyone make him look surprised. They had never seen anyone make him look vulnerable. You're dead, Titan breathed. His voice shook. You're fucking dead. He charged. Even with one arm useless, he was terrifying. 280 pounds of muscle and fury launching forward like a freight train. His left fist swung in a devastating hook that would have taken Walter's head off, if it had connected. Walter moved. Not dramatically, not flashily, just a small shift of weight, a subtle pivot. His body turned like water flowing around a stone. Titan's fist hit nothing but air. His momentum carried him forward. Off balance. Stumbling. His shoulder crashed into the wall with a sickening thud. Before he could recover, Walter was behind him. "Control your breathing," the old man said quietly. "Your anger is making you sloppy." Titan spun around, swinging wildly. Walter wasn't there anymore. Somehow he had moved again, reappearing to the giant's left. "You're broadcasting your attacks. I can see them before you throw them." Another swing, another miss. Titan was breathing hard now. His face was red. Sweat poured down his forehead. "Get him, Darrow!" he screamed at his lieutenants. "Don't just stand there! Get him!" The four men rushed into the cell. Collins closed his eyes. He had seen what was about to happen before. He didn't need to see it again. The first lieutenant threw a punch. Walter caught his wrist, rotated his body, and used the man's own momentum against him. There was a wet cracking sound. The man screamed and collapsed his elbow, bent completely the wrong direction. The second lieutenant pulled a shiv from his waistband. Walter's hand shot out, caught the man's throat, and squeezed. 3 seconds. The man's eyes rolled back, and he crumpled unconscious. The third lieutenant tried to tackle him low. Walter simply stepped aside and brought his elbow down on the back of the man's neck. The man hit the ground and didn't move. The fourth lieutenant froze. He looked at his 3 fallen companions. Looked at the old man standing among them, without a single mark on him. Looked at Titan, who was staring in disbelief. He ran, pushed through the watching crowd, and disappeared down the corridor. Walter turned to face Titan. The giant stood alone now. His right arm was starting to tingle, feeling slowly returning. His lieutenants lay groaning on the floor around him. 300 inmates watched in absolute silence. "Who are you?" Titan's voice was barely a whisper. "What are you?" Walter picked up the chain that had fallen from Titan's fist. He examined it thoughtfully, turning it over in his hands. "I told you already, I'm just an old man." He dropped the chain at Titan's feet. "Serving his time." The silence stretched. Seconds that felt like hours. Then Walter walked out of the cell. The crowd parted for him instantly. Men who had laughed at him 10 minutes ago now pressed themselves against the walls to let him pass. Men who had bet he wouldn't last a day now refused to meet his eyes. He walked to the end of the corridor, stopped at the guard station, and addressed the officer behind the glass. "I'd like to request a cell change. That one has blood on the floor." The guard's mouth opened and closed several times. What should I put in the incident report?" Walter considered the question. Nothing happened. Minor disagreement between inmates. Already resolved. He walked away. Behind him, Titan stood in the middle of the corridor, surrounded by his broken lieutenants. Blood dripped from his nose where he had hit the wall. His hands shook. His eyes were wild. For the first time in his adult life, Marcus Titan Stone felt something he had made hundreds of other people feel. Terror. The word spread through Blackstone like wildfire. By dinner, everyone knew. By lights out, guards from other blocks were finding excuses to walk through Block D, hoping to catch a glimpse of the old man who had done the impossible. By morning, the story had reached other facilities through the mysterious network that connected prisons across the country. An old man had walked into Blackstone Federal Penitentiary and humiliated Titanstone in front of everyone. Nobody knew his name. Nobody knew where he came from. Nobody knew what he had done to end up here. And that mystery made him more terrifying than any fact ever could. Raymond Collins found himself outside Walter's new cell that evening. The old man was sitting on his bed, eyes closed, breathing slowly and steadily. "Can I help you?" Walter asked without opening his eyes. Collins hesitated. I wanted to know. Know who you are, what you are. I've been in the system almost 30 years. I've seen a lot of dangerous men. I've never seen anyone do what you did." Walter opened his eyes. They were calm, almost kind. "You've survived 30 years in places like this, Raymond. That tells me you're smart. Smart enough to know that some questions are better left unasked." "Fair enough." Collins started to turn away, then stopped. "Titan's not going to let this go. You know that, right? You embarrassed him in front of everyone. His whole kingdom is built on fear. You just proved he can be beaten." "I know. He's going to come for you. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but soon. And he won't come alone. He won't come fair." "I know." And that doesn't concern you. Walter smiled slightly. It was the first time Collins had seen him smile. Raymond, I've been hunted by governments. I've been targeted by organizations you've never heard of. I've survived things that would give you nightmares for the rest of your life. Marcus Stone is a bully with muscles. I've killed men who made him look like a child throwing a tantrum. Collins felt ice in his veins. What did you do? He whispered. Before this, Walter's smile faded. I made problems disappear, for people who couldn't afford to have problems, for a very long time. I was whatever they needed me to be, and now I'm just an old man who wants to serve his time in peace. But if peace isn't an option... He looked directly at Collins. Then I'll be what I've always been. And God help anyone who stands in my way. Collins left without another word. He found Jimmy Santos waiting for him in the recreation area. Well, Santos demanded, did you talk to him? Did you find out who he is? Collins sat down heavily. His hands were shaking. I found out enough. Enough for what? Enough to know we need to stay far, far away from him, and we need to pray that whatever war is coming between him and Titan doesn't catch us in the crossfire. That bad? Collins looked at his old friend. Jimmy, I've met killers. I've met psychopaths. I've met men who murdered for fun and men who murdered for profit. That old man is something different. That old man is a professional, the kind of professional that governments use when they need something done quietly and permanently. Santos went pale. You think he's military CIA? I think he's whatever is worse than that. I think he's the kind of man they send when even the CIA can't get the job done. In Block C, Titan sat alone in his cell. The door was closed. The lights were dim. His lieutenants were in the infirmary. One had a shattered elbow, one had a concussion, one had nerve damage in his neck. The fourth had run and hadn't been seen since. Titan looked at his hand. They were still shaking. He had built his entire life on being the biggest, the strongest, the most feared. He had clawed his way up from nothing, using nothing but his fists and his willingness to do what others wouldn't. And today an old man had dismantled everything he believed about himself in less than 2 minutes. There was a knock on his door. What? Titan growled. The door opened. A guard named Morrison stepped in, one of the guards on Titan's payroll. I got some information on the old man, Morrison said. Cost me a lot of favors, but I found something. Titan looked up. Talk. His name is Walter Crane. That's the name he's using anyway. His file is sealed, like really sealed, the kind of sealed that requires clearance from Washington to open. What does that mean? It means he's not a regular criminal. It means whoever he really is, the government doesn't want anyone knowing about it. Titan's jaw tightened. What else? I made some calls. Friend of a friend who works at the DOJ. He told me to stop asking questions immediately. Said the last person who dug too deep into Walter Crane's background disappeared. Just gone. No body, no investigation, just gone. That's impossible. Morrison shook his head. That's what I said, but my friend was scared. Actually scared. I've known him 15 years. Never heard his voice shake like that. Titan stood up slowly. His massive frame filled the small cell. So what you're telling me is that some ghost from the government got sent to my prison, embarrassed me in front of everyone, and I'm supposed to just let it go. I'm telling you to be careful. This isn't some rival gang leader. This isn't some tough guy from another block. This is something else entirely. I don't care what he is. Titan. I said I don't care. Titan grabbed Morrison by the collar and shoved him against the wall. He made me look weak. He made me look scared. In this world, that's worse than death. If I don't handle this, everyone will think they can challenge me. My whole operation falls apart. Morrison swallowed hard. So what are you going to do? Titan released him. I'm going to find out everything about him. I'm going to find his weaknesses. I'm going to find the people he cares about if there are any left. And then I'm going to destroy him. Not just kill him. Destroy him. Make an example that no one will ever forget. Morrison nodded nervously. And if he's as dangerous as they say, Titan's eyes went cold. Then I'll bring enough men to make sure it doesn't matter how dangerous he is. No one is immortal, no one is unbeatable, he's just a man, a 73-year-old man, and eventually old men die. Chief Guard Frank Donovan sat in his office staring at his phone. He had just gotten off a call that changed everything he thought he knew about the situation in Block D. His contact at the Department of Justice had been clear, crystal clear. Do not investigate Walter Crane. Do not question him. Do not allow him to be harmed. And do not under any circumstances tell anyone about this conversation. When Donovan had pressed for more information, the man on the other end of the line had gone quiet. Frank, I'm going to tell you something because we've known each other a long time, and then I'm going to hang up and we're never going to speak about this again. I'm listening. Walter Crane is not his real name. It's a cover, one of many he's used over the years. Before he was in your prison, he was a ghost. The kind of ghost that governments pretend doesn't exist. The kind of ghost that handles problems too sensitive for official channels. What kind of problems? The permanent kind. The kind that requires someone who doesn't exist to make someone else stop existing. Donovan had felt his stomach drop. Are you telling me I have a government assassin in my prison? I'm telling you that you have a man in your prison who did things for his country that will never be acknowledged and never be forgiven. I'm telling you that the reason he's in Blackstone is probably so complicated that neither of us will ever understand it. And I'm telling you that if he dies under your watch, there are people who will hold you personally responsible. What people? The kind of people who can make problems disappear, just like Walter used to do. The line went dead. Now Donovan sat alone in his office trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do. On one side he had Titan Stone, a known killer, a prison power broker, a man who would absolutely try to murder Walter Crane to restore his reputation. On the other side he had Walter Crane, a government ghost, a professional killer, a man who had apparently spent decades doing things that Donovan didn't want to imagine. And somewhere in the middle, he had 500 other inmates who were about to get caught in whatever war was coming. Donovan opened his desk drawer and pulled out a bottle of whiskey he kept for emergencies. This definitely qualified as an emergency. In his new cell, Walter Crane lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. His neck throbbed where Titan had grabbed him. The wound on his head had stopped bleeding but would need attention. His hands ached from the strikes. At 73, his body didn't recover like it used to, but his mind was still sharp. His training was still there. His instincts still worked. He had hoped to do his time quietly, had hoped that the ghosts of his past would stay buried, had hoped that this would finally be the end of running. But he had known on some level that peace was never an option for men like him. You don't spend 40 years doing what he had done and get to ride off into the sunset. The universe didn't work that way. There was always one more problem, one more threat, one more monster who thought he was untouchable, and there was always one more time you had to prove them wrong. Walter closed his eyes. Tomorrow, Titan would start planning his revenge. Tomorrow, the prison would start choosing sides. Tomorrow, the machine would start grinding toward an inevitable confrontation. But tonight, Walter would rest. He had learned long ago to rest when he could, because when the storm came, there would be no time for sleep. Down the corridor, a young inmate named Miguel Reyes lay in his bed, unable to close his eyes. 24 years old. 6 months in Blackstone. He had kept his head down, done what he was told, learned the rules, survived. And today he had watched an old man do the impossible. He had watched someone stand up to Titan and win. For 6 months, Miguel had believed that Titan was unbeatable, that the rules of this place were absolute. That hope was a fantasy for people who didn't understand how the world really worked. Now he wasn't sure what he believed. Because if an old man could make Titan back down, then maybe the rules weren't as absolute as he thought. Maybe the monsters weren't as invincible as they pretended. Maybe there was something else. Something that strength alone couldn't overcome. Miguel stared at the ceiling and thought about the old man's eyes. Those calm, patient eyes that hadn't changed even when Titan was choking the life out of him. What had those eyes seen? What had that man done? And more importantly, what was he going to do next? The night settled over Blackstone, Federal Penitentiary, like a heavy blanket. 500 men tried to sleep in their concrete cells. Guards walked their rounds with their hands on their weapons. The watchtowers swept their searchlights across the yard. Everything looked normal. But nothing was normal anymore, because an old man had walked into hell and made the devil flinch, and by morning everyone would be choosing sides in a war that would change Blackstone forever. 3 days passed. 3 days of whispers. 3 days of watching. 3 days of a prison holding its breath, waiting for the explosion everyone knew was coming. Walter Crane kept to himself. He woke early, did his exercises in his cell, ate alone in the cafeteria, spoke to no one unless spoken to first. He moved through Blackstone like a ghost present, but untouchable, visible, but somehow separate from everything around him. And everywhere he went, eyes followed. On the morning of the 4th day, Titan made his move. Not against Walter, not yet. He was smarter than that. Instead, he called a meeting in the yard during recreation hour. Every gang leader, every shot caller, every man with power in Blackstone. They gathered near the weight benches, forming a loose circle that the guards knew better than to approach. "We have a problem, Titan said. Marcus Webb, leader of the Southside crew, crossed his arms. You have a problem. The old man didn't embarrass me. He embarrassed all of us. How you figure that? Titan stepped closer to Webb. Even among dangerous men, Titan was terrifying. Even after what had happened with Walter, his size alone commanded respect. If one old man can walk in here and make me look weak, what does that say about the rest of you? How long before your own people start thinking they can challenge you? How long before some young punk decides that if Titan can be beaten, anyone can be beaten? The other leaders exchanged glances. They didn't like Titan. Most of them hated him. But they understood what he was saying. Darnell Price, who ran the drug trade in Block B, spoke up. So what do you want? I want everyone to understand that what happened was a fluke, a lucky shot. And I want everyone to see what happens when someone tries that again. You want us to help you kill an old man. I want you to stay out of my way when I do it, and I want you to make sure your people spread the right story afterward. The old man attacked me. I defended myself. End of story. Webb laughed. And what do we get in return? You get to keep your territories. You get to keep your operations. You get to keep breathing. The threat hung in the air. Even among equals, Titan's reputation still carried weight. Price shook his head slowly. I don't like it. Something about that old man feels wrong. The way he moved, the way he knew things about you that nobody should know. That's not luck. That's training. He's 73 years old. Age doesn't mean shit. My grandfather killed 2 men when he was 80. Some people don't get weaker. They just get meaner. Titan's jaw tightened. Are you in or out, Darnell? A long pause. I'm not in, Price said finally. But I'm not out either. You do what you need to do. I'll keep my people away from it, but I'm not helping you, and if it goes bad, I don't know you. Webb nodded. Same. This is your beef. Handle it yourself. One by one, the other leaders gave similar answers. They wouldn't help Titan, but they wouldn't stop him either, and they would make sure the official story was whatever Titan wanted it to be. It wasn't the alliance Titan had hoped for, but it was enough. Across the yard, Raymond Collins watched the meeting from a distance. He couldn't hear what was being said, but he didn't need to. The body language told him everything. They're planning something, Jimmy Santos said beside him. Of course they are. Titan can't let this stand. His whole empire depends on fear. The old man cracked that foundation. Now Titan has to rebuild it or everything falls apart. What do we do? Collins thought about it. He had survived 28 years by staying neutral, by not choosing sides, by being useful enough to everyone that no one had a reason to kill him. But something about this situation felt different. We warn him, Collins said. Santos grabbed his arm. Are you crazy? We get involved in this, we're dead. Titan wins, we're dead for helping the old man. Old man wins, Titan's people come after us for warning him. And if we do nothing, if Titan kills him, and we could have stopped it, then we live? That's the whole point, Raymond. We live. Collins pulled his arm free. 28 years I've been in places like this. 28 years of keeping my head down, looking the other way, telling myself it wasn't my problem. He looked at Santos. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being the kind of man who watches someone get murdered and does nothing. Raymond, I'm not asking you to come with me. I'm telling you what I'm going to. You make your own choice. Collins walked away before Santos could respond. He found Walter in the library. The old man was sitting alone at a table reading a book about military history. He didn't look up when Collins approached. Something I can help you with, Raymond? Collins sat down across from him. How did you know my name? I never told you my name. I know everyone's name. It's a habit. A habit from what? Walter turned a page. From a life you don't want to know about. Titan's planning something. He had a meeting with all the shot callers. They're going to move against you. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow. But soon. Now Walter looked up. His eyes met Collins's eyes. Why are you telling me this? Collins didn't have a good answer. Because you're the first person in 30 years who made me think things could be different. Because I'm tired of watching the same story play out over and over. The bully wins. The good people suffer. Nothing ever changes. I'm not a good person, Raymond. Maybe not. But you're not like Titan either. I've seen enough evil to recognize it. Whatever you are, you're not that. Walter closed his book slowly. How many men does Titan have? Directly loyal to him. Maybe 20, but he can call in favors. Could be 40, 50 if he really needs them. Weapons, shivs. Some guards will look the other way if he has heavier stuff. I've heard rumors about a gun, but I've never seen it. When does he usually move time of day? Night, always night. The skeleton crew was easier to avoid, or buy off. Walter nodded slowly. He seemed to be calculating something. Running scenarios. Planning. Thank you, Raymond. You didn't have to warn me. I know. It might have been smarter not to. I know that too. Walter studied him for a long moment. You're a good man. You've convinced yourself otherwise, but you're wrong. Good men don't survive places like this by being obvious about it. They survive by hiding, by pretending to be like everyone else. But the goodness is still there. It just takes the right moment to come out. Collins felt his throat tighten. He hadn't been called a good man in longer than he could remember. What are you going to do? He asked. What I've always done, Walter said. Whatever is necessary. That night, Titan gathered his most loyal men in the basement of Block C, 15 of them, the hardest, most violent men in Blackstone. Men who had killed before and would kill again without hesitation. Men who owed their positions, their lives, to Titan's protection. Tonight, Titan said, we end this. His lieutenant Marcus Webb had provided the location. Walter's new cell was in a quieter section of Block D away from most of the population. Fewer witnesses, fewer complications. We go in fast, Titan continued. We go in quiet. I want him dead before he knows what's happening. No mistakes, no mercy. One of his men, a giant named Carter, raised his hand. What about the guards? Morrison and Peters are on duty tonight. They know to stay away from that corridor until I give the signal. We'll have at least 20 minutes before anyone comes looking. And after we plant a shiv on him, make it look like he attacked me. Self-defense. The warden will buy it. He always does. The men nodded. They had done this before. Not often, but enough times that the process was familiar. One more thing, Titan said. I want him to know it's me. I want the last thing he sees to be my face. I want him to know that everything he thought he knew about being tough means nothing in my house. He looked around the room. Let's go. They moved through the prison like shadows, 15 men walking in groups of 2 or 3 to avoid suspicion, meeting up in the corridor outside Block D, reforming into a single unit. The lights in this section had been dimmed. Morrison's work. The cameras had been angled away. Peter's contribution. Everything was perfect. Titan reached Walter's cell first. He pressed himself against the wall beside the door knife in hand. The other men spread out behind him. He held up 3 fingers. 2. 1. He burst through the door. The cell was empty. What the... Titan spun around. Where is he? But behind you. The voice came from the corridor. Calm, quiet, almost conversational. Titan turned. Walter Crane stood at the end of the hallway, 20 feet away. He was wearing his orange jumpsuit. His hands were at his sides. He didn't appear to be armed. Looking for me? He asked. Titan felt something cold in his stomach. The old man wasn't surprised. Wasn't scared. Was standing there like he had been expecting them. Like he had planned this. Kill him, Titan ordered. His men charged. What happened next would be talked about in Blackstone for decades. Walter didn't retreat, didn't run, didn't do anything that made sense. He walked toward them. The first man reached him swinging a shiv in a wide arc. Walter stepped inside. The arc caught the man's wrist. Was twisted. The shiv clattered to the ground. A palm strike to the chin. The man dropped. The second and third came together. Walter moved between them, like water using their own momentum against each other. They collided, tangled, fell. The fourth man was bigger, stronger. He managed to grab Walter's arm. Walter let him. Then he pivoted using the man's grip as a fulcrum and drove his elbow into the man's temple. The grip released. The man crumpled. 5 down in less than 10 seconds. The remaining men hesitated. They looked at their fallen comrades. Looked at the old man standing among them, not even breathing hard. Run, Walter said quietly, while you still can. 3 of them ran. The others attacked. Walter became something else. Something that didn't look human. His movements were precise, economical, devastating. Every strike landed exactly where it needed to. Every block redirected force perfectly. Every step placed him exactly where his opponents didn't expect. Bodies fell, men screamed, and through it all, Walter's expression never changed. Finally, only Titan was left standing. The giant looked around at his fallen army. 12 men groaning on the ground or unconscious, his best fighters, his most loyal soldiers, dismantled in less than 2 minutes by a 73-year-old man. Walter said, "We can talk." "Fuck you." Titan charged. He was faster this time, more careful. He had watched Walter fight, had seen his patterns, had found what he thought was an opening. He was wrong. Walter sidestepped the charge and drove his fist into Titan's kidney. The giant gasped, staggering. A knee to the solar plexus. Titan doubled over, an elbow to the back of the neck. Titan went down. He tried to rise. Walter put a foot on his back. "Stay down. I'll kill you." Titan's voice was muffled against the concrete. "I swear to God, I'll kill you." "No, you won't." Walter crouched beside him. "Listen to me carefully, Marcus. I've killed more men than you've ever met. I've done things that would give you nightmares. I've survived situations that would have destroyed you before you knew what was happening. You are not a threat to me. You are an inconvenience." He grabbed Titan's hair and lifted his head. "But I don't want to kill you. Killing you would cause me problems. It would raise questions. It would draw attention. I just want to serve my time and leave. So here's what's going to happen." He leaned closer. "You're going to get up. You're going to collect your men. You're going to go back to your cell. And you're going to leave me alone. In exchange, I won't tell anyone what happened here tonight. Your reputation stays intact. Your operation continues. Everyone wins." "And if I don't agree?" Walter's eyes went cold. "Then I'll do what I was trained to do. And tomorrow morning they'll find pieces of you scattered across this prison, pieces so small they won't be able to identify them, pieces that will give everyone nightmares for the rest of their lives." He released Titan's hair. "Choose." Titan lay still for a long moment. His mind was racing. His pride was screaming at him to fight, to never give up, to prove that he was still the king of Blackstone. But another part of him, a deeper part, recognized the truth. He was beaten. Not because Walter was stronger, not because Walter was faster, because Walter was something entirely different. A weapon designed for exactly this kind of situation, a force that couldn't be reasoned with, bargained with, or defeated through conventional means. "Fine," Titan said. "Fine, you win." Walter stood up and stepped back. "A wise decision?" Titan rose slowly. His body ached. His pride ached more. He looked at his fallen men, some of whom were starting to stir. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is." Something in Walter's voice made Titan believe him. The giant gathered his men and retreated. Walter watched them go. When the corridor was empty, he finally allowed himself to breathe. His hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline. From the effort of controlling instincts that had been screaming at him, pumped to kill every single one of them. He had spent 40 years learning how to end lives, learning how to be the last one standing, learning how to survive at any cost. Unlearning those instincts was harder than acquiring them had ever been. He walked back to his cell and sat down on his bed. His heart was pounding. His joints ached. At 73, his body was not designed for this anymore, but his mind was still sharp, and that was enough. The next morning, everything was different. Word of what happened spread through Blackstone like a virus. Different versions, different details. But the core truth was always the same. Titan had come for Walter with 15 men. Titan had lost. In the cafeteria, conversation stopped when Walter entered. Men who had previously ignored him now stepped aside. Men who had mocked him now refused to meet his eyes. Raymond Collins was waiting at a table in the corner. "I heard what happened," he said as Walter sat down. "News travels fast." "In here, news travels at the speed of fear." Collins shook his head slowly. 15 men, Walter. 15 armed men. And you took them all down without a weapon." "I had a weapon." "What weapon?" Walter tapped his temple. "The most dangerous kind. The kind you can't see coming. The kind you can't take away." Collins was quiet for a moment. "What happens now?" Now Titan licks his wounds, recalculates. He's not stupid. He knows he can't beat me directly, so he'll try something else. Like what? Like finding my weakness. Like finding someone I care about. Like using leverage instead of force. "Do you have someone you care about?" Walter's expression flickered. Just for a moment. Just long enough for Collins to notice. "Once," the old man said quietly. "A long time ago." "What happened?" "The same thing that happens to everyone I get close to. They become targets, and targets don't usually survive long." Collins felt a chill. "Is that why you're here in Blackstone?" Walter didn't answer. He didn't need to. Across the cafeteria, a young man was watching them. Miguel Reyes, 24 years old, 6 months in Blackstone. He had seen the old man's first confrontation with Titan. He had heard about what happened last night, and something was burning inside him, something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Courage. He stood up from his table. His cellmate grabbed his arm. "Miguel, don't. Whatever you're thinking, don't. Let go of me. That man is dangerous. You heard what he did last night. You want to be next. I want to talk to him, that's all. Miguel." He pulled free and walked across the cafeteria. Every step felt like a mile. He could feel eyes on him, could feel the weight of attention from every direction. Walking up to Walter Crane was a statement, a declaration, the kind of thing that couldn't be taken back. He reached the table. "Mr. Crane?" Walter looked up at him, those calm, measuring eyes taking in everything. "Yes." "My name is Miguel Reyes. I've been watching you, what you did to Titan, what you did last night. I just wanted to say..." He swallowed hard. "I wanted to say thank you." "For what?" "For showing me that the bullies don't always win, for showing me that it's possible to stand up to them, for showing me that strength isn't just about muscles and violence." Walter studied him for a long moment. "Sit down, Miguel." Miguel sat. "How long have you been in Blackstone?" 6 months. "What are you in for?" "Armed robbery. I got desperate. Made a stupid decision. Now I'm paying for it." "How much time do you have?" 5 more years, if I behave." Walter nodded slowly. "You have a family outside. A mother, a younger sister. They came to visit once, but it was too hard for them. Seeing me like this, in a place like this. Do you want to see them again?" "More than anything." "Then hear me carefully. What I did to Titan, what I did last night, those were the actions of a man who has nothing left to lose. I'm 73 years old. I've lived my life, made my choices, paid my prices. But you?" He leaned forward. "You have everything to lose, and everything to gain. I don't understand. Don't become me, Miguel. Don't let this place turn you into a weapon. Use your time. Learn, read, improve yourself. Be ready for the life waiting for you on the outside. That's how you really beat the bullies. Not by fighting them, by outlasting them, by becoming something better than they could ever be." Miguel felt tears prick his eyes. He hadn't cried in 6 months. Had convinced himself that crying was weakness, that feeling anything was weakness. "How do you know so much?" he asked. "About life, about people." Walter's expression softened. "Just slightly, just enough. Because I made every mistake you're afraid of making, and I'm trying to save you from the same fate. Chief Guard Frank Donovan was having the worst week of his career. The incident with Titan and Walter had generated paperwork, questions, phone calls from people who shouldn't have known what happened, but somehow did. Now he was sitting in his office with Special Agent Patricia Morrison from the FBI. "Tell me again what happened," she said. "I told you 3 times already." "Tell me a 4th time." Donovan sighed. Inmate Stone had an altercation with Inmate Crane. There were injuries. It was handled internally. 15 men, Chief Donovan. 15 inmates required medical attention. That's not an altercation. That's a massacre. The situation was contained. By whom? Donovan didn't answer. Morrison leaned forward. "I know who Walter Crane is. Or who he was. The question is, why is he in your prison, and what does he want? You know more than I do." "I doubt that." She pulled a file from her briefcase. "Walter Crane, born 1952. Official records stop in 1975. For the next 40 years, he doesn't exist. No tax returns, no driver's license, no address, nothing. What does that tell you?" "It tells me he was working for someone who could make people disappear. It tells me whatever he did was classified at levels that I'm not cleared to see, and it tells me that his presence in Blackstone is not random." Donovan felt his stomach tighten. "What do you mean, Maha?" "I mean someone put him here. Deliberately. For a reason." "What reason?" Morrison closed the file. "That's what I'm here to find out." In his cell, Titan sat alone. His body had healed, bruises fading, cuts closing. But something deeper was broken, something that couldn't be fixed with time or medicine. His pride, his identity, his entire sense of who he was. For 20 years, he had been the biggest, the strongest, the most feared. He had built an empire on that foundation, had made himself into something legendary. And now? Now he was the man who had lost to an old man, twice. The man whose 15 best fighters had been demolished in minutes. the man who had been given mercy instead of death. Mercy. The word tasted like poison in his mouth. He had never shown mercy, never received it, had believed that mercy was weakness, that the only law was strength. But Walter Crane had shown him something different, had shown him that there were levels of strength he had never imagined, had shown him that all his muscles, all his violence, all his fear meant nothing against a man who had been forged in fires that Titan couldn't even comprehend. What was he supposed to do now? A knock on his door. What? Guard Morrison opened the door. You have a visitor. I don't want visitors. You want this one. Morrison stepped aside. A man entered the cell. Expensive suit, cold eyes. The kind of man who looked like he had never been inside a prison in his life. Marcus Stone, the man said. My name is David Chen. I represent certain interests who have been watching you with great concern. What kind of interests? The kind that don't like seeing their investments threatened. Chen sat down on the edge of Titan's bed without asking permission. Walter Crane is a problem for us, just like he's a problem for you. Titan sat up straighter. I'm listening. We know things about him that you don't. We have resources that you don't, and we have a mutual interest in seeing him removed from this equation. Why do you care about an old man in prison? Chen smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Because Walter Crane killed 7 of our people over the years. Because he destroyed operations worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Because he is the reason that several of our most important members are either dead or in prison themselves. He leaned forward, and because we've been waiting a very long time for him to be somewhere we could reach him. Titan felt something stir inside him, something that had been dormant since his defeat. Hope. What do you want me to do? He asked. Nothing yet. Just watch, learn, report what you see. When the time comes, we'll tell you what we need. And in exchange, you'll have the resources of people who make your little prison empire look like a child's game. Money, protection, connections, everything you've ever wanted. Chen stood up. Think about it, but don't think too long. Walter Crane is not going to stay in Blackstone forever, and when he leaves, the opportunity leaves with him. He walked to the door. We'll be in touch. Titan watched him go. For the first time since his defeat, he smiled. The game had just changed. 2 weeks after David Chen's visit, Titan started receiving packages. Small things at first. A cell phone hidden inside a Bible, cash tucked into the binding of a legal document, information about guard schedules, camera blind spots, prisoner transfers. Someone on the outside was feeding him everything he needed, and Titan was paying attention. He sat in his cell on a Tuesday morning, scrolling through files on the smuggled phone. Photos, documents, names, dates, the kind of information that didn't exist in any official database. Walter Crane's real name was William Crawford, born 1952 in Boston. Father was a dock worker. Mother died when he was 7. Joined the Army at 18. Showed exceptional aptitude for certain skills. Was recruited into a program that officially didn't exist. For 40 years, William Crawford had been a ghost. A weapon pointed at problems that couldn't be solved through conventional means. He had operated in 37 countries. Had eliminated targets ranging from drug lords to corrupt politicians to terrorist leaders. And then 15 years ago, he had disappeared. No retirement, no debriefing, no official end to his service. He had simply walked away. The file didn't say why, but it did say something else. Something that made Titan smile. William Crawford had a daughter. Her name was Sarah, 42 years old, living in Phoenix, working as a nurse at a children's hospital. She had no idea what her father had done. No idea what he really was. She thought he was dead. Titan looked at her photograph for a long time. Pretty woman. Kind eyes. The kind of person who had never seen the darkness her father had spent his life swimming in. The kind of person who could be used. He picked up the phone and dialed the number Chen had given him. I found something. Walter knew something was wrong the moment he entered the cafeteria. The energy was different. Conversation stopped when he passed. Eyes followed him with a strange mixture of fear and anticipation. Even the guards seemed more alert than usual. Collins was waiting at their usual table. His face was pale. What happened? Walter asked, sitting down. Word came through this morning, from outside. What word? Collins leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. Someone's been asking about you. Not prison people. Outside people. The kind with money and connections. They've been reaching out to everyone who might know something about your past. Walter's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. Who? I don't know, but my contact says they're serious, organized. They've been at it for weeks, pulling records, interviewing people, building a file. Building a file for what purpose? My contact didn't know, but he said something else. Collins swallowed hard. He said they found something important, something you've been hiding. Walter was silent for a long moment. Did he say what they found? No, just that it changed everything, that whoever these people are, they think they finally have leverage against you. Leverage. The word hit Walter like a bullet to the chest. There was only one thing in his life that could be used as leverage. Only one vulnerability he had never been able to eliminate. Sarah. He stood up abruptly. Walter, what is it? What did they find? I need to make a phone call. You can't just... But Walter was already walking away, moving faster than Collins had ever seen him move, heading toward the guard station with a purpose that made everyone in the cafeteria step back. He reached the desk and addressed Officer Henderson. I need to use the phone. Emergency family contact. Henderson looked uncertain. Mr. Crane, that requires approval from... Get me the phone, now. Something in Walter's voice made Henderson comply. He handed over the receiver and stepped back. Walter dialed a number he had memorized 15 years ago. A number he had never called. A number he had hoped he would never need to call. It rang 3 times. Hello? The voice hit him like a physical blow. He hadn't heard it in 15 years, hadn't allowed himself to hear it, but he would have recognized it anywhere. Sarah. Silence on the other end. Sarah, it's me. Who is this? It's your father. A longer silence. When she spoke again, her voice was shaking. My father is dead. He died 15 years ago. I got a letter, an official letter. The letter was a lie. I'm alive. I've always been alive. I couldn't contact you. It wasn't safe. What do you mean it wasn't safe? What are you talking about? Who is this really? Sarah, listen to me. When you were 8 years old, you broke your arm falling out of the oak tree in our backyard. You were trying to rescue a cat that wasn't actually stuck. You just wanted an excuse to climb. I carried you to the hospital myself because the ambulance was taking too long. You held my hand the entire time and told me you weren't scared, but you were crying. Silence. Only 3 people know that story. You, me, and your mother passed away 20 years ago. Dad, her voice cracked. Dad, is it really you? It's really me, sweetheart. Oh my God, she was crying now. Where have you been? Why did you let me think you were dead? Do you have any idea what that did to me? I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But right now, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Are you listening? Yes, I'm listening. Some very dangerous people are looking for ways to hurt me, and they may have found out about you. I need you to leave your house right now. Don't pack. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Just get in your car and drive. What, Dad? You're scaring me. I mean to scare you. Fear will keep you alive. Go to the place we used to visit when you were little, the place with the birds. Do you remember? The sanctuary in Sedona. Yes, go there. Check into the motel across the street. Use cash. Use a fake name. Don't use your credit cards. Don't use your phone after this call. Buy a burner and text me the number at this line. Dad, what is happening? What did you do? Why are people trying to hurt you? Walter closed his eyes. Because I hurt them first, a long time ago, and they've been waiting for their chance to hurt me back. What does that mean? It means I'm not the man you thought I was, Sarah. It means the father you remember was a mask I wore so you could have a normal life. It means everything you believed about me was a lie. Dad, I don't have time to explain. Please, just trust me. Go now. Drive fast. Don't stop for anyone. When will I see you again? Walter's throat tightened. Soon. I promise. I'll find you when this is over. Dad, I love you. Whatever you did, whatever you are, I love you. I love you too, sweetheart, more than you'll ever know. Now go. He hung up the phone. His hands were shaking. Behind him, half the cafeteria had stopped to watch. They had never seen Walter Crane show emotion, had never seen anything crack through that mask of perfect calm. Now they saw a father terrified for his daughter. It made him seem more dangerous, not less. Collins appeared beside him. Walter, what's going on? They found my daughter. You have a daughter. I have a lot of things I never told anyone about. That's how I've stayed alive this long. He turned to face Collins. I need to find out who's behind this. I need to find out how they got their information, and I need to do it fast. How can I help? Walter studied him for a moment. You're a good man, Raymond, but what I'm about to do isn't good. It's not clean. It's not something you want to be part of. I've been part of dark things before. Not like this. He walked away before Collins could respond. Special Agent Patricia Morrison was eating lunch in the prison administration building when her phone rang. Morrison? Agent Morrison, this is Chief Donovan. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Walter Crane just made an emergency phone call. Very agitated, very unlike him. And now he's requested a meeting with me, says it's urgent. Morrison set down her sandwich. Don't meet with him alone. I'm on my way. 20 minutes later, she was sitting across from Walter Crane in Donovan's office. The old man looked different than he had a week ago. Something had changed. The calm was still there, but beneath it she could see something darker, something desperate. Thank you for seeing me, Walter said. You said it was urgent. It is. Someone is trying to kill me. Not the usual prison threats. Someone from outside, someone with resources and connections. Who? I don't know yet. But they found leverage against me, personal leverage, and they're going to use it. Morrison leaned back in her chair. Mr. Crane, I've been investigating you for 2 weeks. I know who you are. I know what you did. I know about the 40 years of operations that officially never happened. What I don't know is why you're telling me this. Because you're FBI. Because you have resources I don't have. Because whatever organization is coming after me is probably on your radar already. What makes you think that because they're organized, well-funded, patient, they've been planning this for weeks? That's not a prison gang. That's something bigger. Morrison exchanged a glance with Donovan. He might be right, Donovan said. I've noticed unusual activity around Titanstone lately. Packages coming in, information flowing. Someone's feeding him resources that he shouldn't have access to. Morrison turned back to Walter. If I help you, I need something in return. Name it. I want to know everything, every operation, every target, every secret you've been keeping for 40 years. I want full disclosure. Walter was quiet for a long moment. Some of those secrets could destroy careers, end lives, bring down people who are still in power. I know. You're asking me to betray everyone I ever worked for. I'm asking you to trust me, the same way you're asking me to trust you. The silence stretched. Finally, Walter nodded. Okay, but first I need you to protect my daughter. Her name is Sarah Crawford. She's in Sedona, Arizona, or she should be by now. I need you to send agents. I need you to make sure no one gets to her. Morrison picked up her phone and dialed. This is Agent Morrison. I need a protection detail dispatched to Sedona, Arizona. High priority. Target is Sarah Crawford. Yes, I'll hold. She looked at Walter while she waited. Your daughter doesn't know about any of this, does she? She thought I was dead until 20 minutes ago. That must have been quite a phone call. It was. A voice came through the phone. Morrison spoke quietly for a moment, then hung up. Done. 2 agents will be there within the hour. She'll be safe. Walter's shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you. Now it's your turn. Start talking. Miguel Reyes was in the yard when he heard the news. Titan was planning something big. Bigger than the failed attack. Bigger than anything he had tried before. And it involved the old man's family. Miguel felt sick to his stomach. He had been thinking about Walter constantly since their conversation in the cafeteria, about what the old man had said, about strength and patience and becoming something better. He had started reading again, started studying, started believing that maybe, just maybe, he could have a life after this place. Walter had given him that. And now someone was trying to destroy Walter through his daughter. Miguel found himself walking toward Block C before he realized what he was doing. Toward Titan's territory, toward the most dangerous place in Blackstone for someone like him. He found a group of Titan's men gathered near the basketball courts. They noticed him approaching and stopped talking. You lost little man, one of them asked. I need to talk to Titan. Laughter. You need to talk to Titan. That's funny. What makes you think Titan wants to talk to you? Tell him I have information about Walter Crane, something he doesn't know. The laughter stopped. The men exchanged glances. Wait here. 5 minutes later, Miguel was being escorted to Titan's cell. The giant was sitting on his bed, looking at something on a phone. He glanced up when Miguel entered. You're the kid who's been following the old man around like a puppy. I'm not following anyone. Don't lie to me. I have eyes everywhere. You've been eating with him, talking with him, learning from him. Titan smiled. That's interesting. I heard you're planning something involving his daughter. Titan's smile widened. And what if I am? Don't. Excuse me. Miguel's heart was pounding. Every instinct told him to run, to apologize, to beg for forgiveness and crawl away. Instead, he stood his ground. Don't go after his family. That's crossing a line. Titan stood up slowly. His massive frame filled the cell. You're telling me what to do in my house after everything that old man did to me. He let you live. After both fights, he let you live. He could have killed you. Everyone knows it, but he showed mercy. Mercy is weakness. No, mercy is strength. It takes more strength to not kill someone than to kill them. Walter taught me that. Titan moved closer. Miguel could feel the heat coming off his body, could smell the violence radiating from him like a physical force. Walter taught you, Titan repeated, so you're his student now, his disciple. I'm someone who's trying to be better, someone who doesn't want to spend the rest of his life being afraid and angry and small. Small, Titan laughed. You want to talk about small? Look at you. I could break you in half without trying. I could make you disappear and nobody would even ask questions. Then do it. The words came out before Miguel could stop them. Titan's eyes narrowed. What did you say? I said do it. Kill me. Break me in half. Make me disappear. Miguel's voice was shaking, but he didn't stop. Because I'd rather die standing up to you than live being afraid of you. I'd rather be the kind of man who does the right thing once than the kind of man who does the wrong thing forever. The silence that followed was absolute. Titan stared at Miguel like he was seeing him for the first time. Then he started laughing. Not a cruel laugh, not a mocking laugh, something else. Something that almost sounded like respect. You've got balls, kid. I'll give you that. He sat back down on his bed. Get out of here before I change my mind. Are you going to leave his daughter alone? Get out! Miguel turned and walked away. His legs felt like water. His hands wouldn't stop trembling. But he had done it. He had stood up to the monster. And somehow, impossibly, he had survived. That night, Collins found Walter in the library again. The kid confronted Titan, Collins said, sitting down across from him. Walter looked up from his book. What kid? Miguel, the young one who's been following you around. He walked into Titan's territory and told him to leave your daughter alone. Walter's expression shifted. He did what? Stood right in front of Titan and told him not to cross the line. Called mercy a strength. Said he'd rather die standing up than live being afraid. That was incredibly stupid. That was incredibly brave. Collins shook his head. I've been in the system 30 years. I've never seen anyone do something like that. Never seen anyone risk everything for someone else's family. Walter closed his book slowly. Where is he now? His cell. Titan let him go. Don't ask me why. Walter stood up. I need to talk to him. He found Miguel sitting on his bed, staring at his hands. The young man looked up when Walter appeared in his doorway. Mr. Crane? What you did was reckless. Miguel's face fell. I know. I'm sorry. I just couldn't. I wasn't finished. Walter stepped into the cell. What you did was reckless and foolish and probably the bravest thing I've seen in 40 years. Miguel looked up. You stood up for someone you barely know? You risked your life for my daughter, who you've never met. You faced down a man who could have killed you without a second thought. Walter sat down on the edge of Miguel's bed. Why, what? Because it was right. Lots of things are right. People don't do them anyway. Because you showed me something, Miguel's voice cracked. You showed me that I don't have to be what this place wants me to be, that I can choose who I am, that strength isn't about hurting people, it's about protecting them. Walter was quiet for a long moment. I've done terrible things in my life, Miguel, things that keep me awake at night, things I can never make up for. I'm not a good man. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who was very good at a very dark job. But you're trying to be better now, aren't you? Walter looked at him. I don't know. Maybe it's too late for someone like me. It's not too late. It's never too late. That's what young people think, before life teaches them otherwise. Then teach me otherwise. Show me I'm wrong. Walter smiled slightly, the first real smile Miguel had ever seen from him. You remind me of someone. Someone I knew a long time ago. Someone who believed in things even when there was no reason to believe. What happened to them? They died, trying to do the right thing in a world that punished people for it. And you didn't die. No, I survived. I always survive. That's what I was trained to do. He stood up. Get some sleep, Miguel. Tomorrow is going to be complicated. What's happening tomorrow? I don't know yet, but I can feel it coming. Something is building. Something that's going to change everything. He walked to the door, then paused. Thank you for what you did. I won't forget it. He left before Miguel could respond. At 3:47 a.m., Titan received a message on his smuggled phone. Package delivered. Target acquired. Awaiting instructions. He stared at the screen for a long moment. Despite what his people believed, the confrontation with Miguel had affected him. Not the kid's words exactly, but something about the way he had stood there, willing to die for something he believed in. Titan couldn't remember the last time he had believed in anything. He had spent so long being angry, so long being powerful, so long making everyone afraid of him that he had forgotten there was any other way to live. The old man had shown him that his strength wasn't as absolute as he thought. The kid had shown him that courage came in forms he had never considered. And now, sitting alone in his cell at 3:47 in the morning, Titan had a choice to make. He could follow through with Chen's plan. Use Walter's daughter to destroy him, take his revenge, restore his reputation, rebuild his empire of fear. Or he could do something else, something he had never done before. He looked at the message again. Package delivered. Target acquired. Awaiting instructions. His thumb hovered over the keyboard. What kind of man did he want to be? The question had never occurred to him before. He had always been the same. The strongest, the most feared. The one who crushed anyone who challenged him. But what had that gotten him? A prison cell. A broken body. A reputation built on terror that could crumble the moment someone stronger came along. And someone stronger had come along. Walter Crane had beaten him twice. Had spared his life twice. Had shown him mercy when mercy was the last thing Titan deserved. Why Titan had asked himself that question every day since the warehouse. Why hadn't Walter killed him? Why hadn't he finished the job? Now sitting in the darkness, he thought he understood. Because killing him would have been easy. And Walter didn't do easy, because mercy took more strength than murder. Just like the kid said. Because Walter was trying to show him something, trying to teach him something, the same way he was teaching the kid. Titan typed his response slowly. Stand down, release the target. This is over. He sent the message and turned off the phone. Then he lay back on his bed and stared at the ceiling. He didn't know what would happen tomorrow. Didn't know what Chen would do when he found out. Didn't know if he had just signed his own death warrant. But for the first time in as long as he could remember, Marcus Stone felt something other than anger. He felt free. David Chen received Titan's message at 4:12 a.m. He read it 3 times. Stand down, release the target. This is over. His hand tightened around the phone until his knuckles turned white. Problem, his associate asked from across the room. Stone has lost his nerve. Should we proceed anyway? Chen thought about it. They had Walter's daughter. They had leverage. They didn't need Titan anymore, but killing a federal prisoner's daughter without someone inside to take the blame would draw attention. The kind of attention that could expose their entire operation. Release her, Chen said finally. But make sure she knows we can find her again. Anytime we want. His associate nodded and left. Chen sat alone in the darkness, thinking about Marcus Stone, about the man who had been so eager for revenge just days ago, about what could have possibly changed his mind. Something had happened inside Blackstone, something that turned their weapon into a liability. Chen didn't like variables he couldn't control, and right now everything about this situation had become unpredictable. He picked up his phone and made another call. We need to accelerate the timeline. I want Crawford dead within 72 hours. That's going to require different resources. Then get different resources. I don't care what it costs. I don't care who gets hurt. That man destroyed everything I spent 20 years building. He killed my brother. He killed my partners. He put me in a position where I had to rebuild from nothing. Chen's voice dropped to a whisper. I want him to suffer. And then I want him to die knowing that everything he tried to protect is going to burn anyway. At 6:30 a.m., Walter was escorted to Chief Donovan's office. Agent Morrison was already there, along with 2 other FBI agents Walter didn't recognize. Sit down, Morrison said. Walter sat. Your daughter is safe. Our agents reached her before Chen's people could act. She's in protective custody now. Walter felt something release in his chest, a tension he hadn't realized he thought he was carrying. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Chen isn't going to stop. Our intelligence suggests he's accelerating his timeline. He wants you dead and he wants it done quickly. Who is David Chen? Morrison exchanged a glance with Donovan. David Chen is the last surviving member of what we used to call the Pacific Syndicate. 20 years ago, they controlled drug trafficking routes from Asia to North America. They were worth billions. They were untouchable. Until they weren't. Until you got involved. Morrison pulled out a file. Operation Jade Dragon, 2005. You systematically dismantled their entire organization, eliminated their leadership, destroyed their infrastructure. By the time you were done, the Pacific Syndicate existed only in history books. Walter's expression didn't change. I remember. Chen was the youngest brother, the one everyone underestimated. He wasn't involved in operations, so he wasn't a target. After you destroyed his family, he disappeared. Spent 15 years rebuilding, creating new networks, new alliances, new power structures. And now he wants revenge. He's wanted revenge since the day you killed his brother. He just needed to find you first. Walter leaned back in his chair. How did he find me? We don't know yet. Someone with access to classified information sold you out. We're investigating. Investigating won't keep me alive for the next 72 hours. No, but we have a plan for that. Morrison nodded to one of the other agents who opened a briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. We can transfer you to a secure facility, Federal Witness Protection level security. Chen won't be able to reach you there. Walter shook his head. Running won't solve this. Chen will keep coming. He'll find another way, another target, another leverage point. The only way this ends is if he's stopped permanently. We can arrest him, build a case. On what evidence he's been operating in the shadows for 15 years? He doesn't leave trails. He doesn't make mistakes. By the time you build a case, I'll be dead and he'll have disappeared again. Morrison stared at him. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that you let me handle this my way. Your way got a lot of people killed over the years. My way kept a lot more people alive. The silence stretched. Finally, Morrison spoke again. I can't officially sanction anything, but I can give you 72 hours before we move you. What you do with that time is your business. That's all I need. And Crawford, Morrison leaned forward. Whatever happens, Chen doesn't die in my jurisdiction. Am I clear? Walter stood up. Crystal clear. He walked out of the office. Collins was waiting in the hallway. Well, I have 72 hours. To do what? To end this, one way or another. Collins fell into step beside him as they walked back toward Block D. You have a plan. I have pieces of a plan. I need more information. What kind of information? Chen has people inside this prison. I need to know who they are. I need to know how they communicate. I need to know every resource he has access to. That's a lot to find out in 72 hours. Then we better get started. They turned a corner and stopped. Titan was standing in the middle of the corridor, alone. No lieutenants, no crew. Just the giant himself looking somehow smaller than Walter remembered. We need to talk, Titan said. Collins started to move forward, but Walter held up a hand. It's okay, Raymond. Give us a minute. Collins hesitated, then stepped back. Walter approached Titan slowly. I heard what you did last night. Titan's jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. You told Chen's people to release my daughter. You shut down the operation. Maybe I just decided it wasn't worth the trouble. Maybe, or maybe something else happened. They stood face to face, the giant and the old man, the bully and the ghost, two men who had been trying to destroy each other for weeks. Why did you do it? Walter asked. Titan didn't answer immediately. His eyes dropped to the floor, then came back up. The kid, Miguel, he came to my cell, stood right in front of me and told me not to cross the line, said mercy was strength, said he'd rather die standing up than live being afraid. And that changed your mind. That made me think, for the first time in a long time. Titan's voice was rough, uncertain. I've spent my whole life being angry, being strong, being the one everyone fears. And what did it get me? A prison cell, a broken reputation, enemies everywhere. He looked at Walter directly. You beat me twice. Both times you could have killed me. Both times you walked away. I couldn't understand why. Kept thinking it was weakness. Kept thinking you were stupid for not finishing the job. And now I think maybe you were trying to show me something. Same thing you showed the kid. That there's another way to be strong. Walter studied him for a long moment. You're not wrong. So what happens now? Chen's going to find out I betrayed him. He's going to come after me too. Then we have a common enemy. Titan laughed bitterly. You and me, working together, a month ago I wanted to kill you more than I've ever wanted anything. A month ago I would have let you try. What changed? I got tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of enemies. Tired of being the weapon everyone points at their problems. Walter's voice softened slightly. I came to this prison hoping to disappear. Hoping to serve my time and find some peace before I die. Instead, I found a bully who reminded me of every tyrant I ever took down. I found a young man who reminded me that hope isn't just for fools. And I found an enemy from my past who won't let me rest until one of us is dead. Sounds complicated. It always is. Titan was quiet for a moment. What do you need from me? Information. Chen has people inside Blackstone. Guards. Inmates. I need to know who they are. Morrison? Peters. They're the guards on his payroll. And there's an inmate named Vargas in Block B who handles communications. He has a phone that connects directly to Chen's network. How do you know all this? Because I was supposed to be part of it. Chen was feeding me everything I needed to destroy you. Names, resources, plans. Titan reached into his pocket and pulled out a phone. This connects to his operation. Everything goes through here. Walter took the phone. This is useful. It's all I have. After what I did last night, I'm a dead man walking. Chen doesn't forgive betrayal. Then we better make sure Chen doesn't have the chance to do anything about it. Titan extended his hand. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm with you, whatever happens next. Walter looked at the hand, at the man offering it, at everything that hand represented. He shook it. Welcome to the right side, Marcus. By noon, Walter had assembled his team. It was an unlikely group. Collins, the veteran who had survived by staying neutral for 30 years. Santos, the connected man who knew everyone and everything. Miguel, the young man who had found his courage. And Titan, the former enemy who had chosen a different path. They met in the library surrounded by books that nobody ever read. Here's what we know, Walter said. Chen is accelerating his timeline. He wants me dead within 72 hours. He has resources inside and outside this prison, and he's not going to stop until one of us is gone. So what's the plan? Santos asked. We turn his operation against him. Titan has access to his communication network. We use it to feed him false information, make him think his plan is working when it's actually falling apart. What kind of false information? Collins asked. We make him think there's an opportunity, a window when I'll be vulnerable, a moment when his people can strike without interference. Miguel frowned. You're using yourself as bait. I'm using myself as a weapon. There's a difference. What if something goes wrong? What if his people actually get to you? Walter looked at him. Then they'll learn the same lesson Titan learned, that I'm not as helpless as I look at. Titan shifted uncomfortably. Chen isn't stupid. If his people fail, he'll know something is wrong. He'll disappear again and we'll be right back where we started. That's why failure isn't an option. We need to capture his people, get them to talk, build a trail that leads back to Chen himself. And then what? Then Agent Morrison does her job. She arrests him, puts him away, ends this permanently. Collins shook his head. You really think the FBI is going to let you orchestrate a sting operation inside a federal prison? They don't have to let me do anything. They just have to not stop me. Walter pulled out the phone Titan had given him. Chen thinks this is still his asset. We use it to set the trap. His people come for me. We take them down. Morrison gets her arrests. Chen gets exposed. Everyone wins. Except Chen, Santos said. Except Chen. The group was quiet for a moment, processing the plan. Finally, Miguel spoke. What do you need me to do? You stay out of it. This is dangerous. So was standing up to Titan. I did that anyway. This is different. How is it different? Miguel's voice rose. You taught me that doing the right thing matters even when it's hard. You taught me that strength means protecting people, not hurting them. Now you're asking everyone else to help, but you want me to hide. Walter looked at him for a long moment. You have a future, Miguel. A mother who loves you, a sister who needs you. You have 5 years left, and then you get to walk out of here and build something. I won't let you throw that away. And what about you? Don't you have a future? I'm 73 years old. I've done things that would horrify you. The future I have left is measured in years, not decades. If something happens to me, the world doesn't lose much. If something happens to you, it loses everything you could become. Miguel's eyes filled with tears he refused to let fall. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. You know that better than most. The silence stretched. I can keep watch, Miguel said finally. I can be a lookout. I can make sure no one comes that you don't expect. That's not dangerous. That's just paying attention. Walter considered it. Okay, lookout only. You see anything wrong, you run. You don't engage. You don't try to be a hero. You run and you get help. Understood? Understood. Walter nodded. All right, let's get to work. At 3:15 p.m., Walter sent the first message through Chen's network. Target confirmed. Isolation cell block D. Guard rotation gap at 2 a.m. 30-minute window. The response came within minutes. Proceed. 3 operatives en route. Confirm when complete. Walter showed the message to the group. They're coming tonight. Titan's face was grim. 3 operatives. That means professionals, not inmates. Chen is sending outside people. How do they get inside? Same way everything else gets inside. The right guards, the right timing, the right amount of money. Collins leaned forward. We need to tell Morrison. She can have FBI agents waiting. No, FBI involvement will spook them. Chen has people watching. If he sees federal activity, he'll abort. Then how do we take down 3 professional killers? Walter smiled slightly. We don't. I do. Walter. I've been doing this for 40 years, Raymond. I know how they think. I know how they move. I know their weaknesses. 3 operatives in a confined space is actually easier than 1. They'll get in each other's way. You're 73 years old. And I've killed men half my age who were twice as fast. Age is a number. Experience is a weapon. Santos shook his head. This is crazy. This is what I do, what I've always done. Walter stood up. Tonight we end this. Chen sends his people. I take them down. Morrison gets her evidence. And then Chen spends the rest of his life in a cell knowing that the man he spent 15 years hunting is the one who put him there. He looked at each of them. Any questions? Nobody spoke. Good. Get some rest. It's going to be a long night. At 11:47 p.m., Agent Morrison received an anonymous message. 3 operatives entering Blackstone tonight. 2 a.m., Block D isolation cell. Crawford is the target. Recommend tactical response. She stared at her phone for a long moment. Then she made a call. I need a team. Quiet deployment. No sirens, no lights. We go in soft and we don't move until I give the word. At 1:30 a.m., Walter was moved to the isolation cell. The guards who escorted him were Morrison's people, not Chen's. They positioned themselves at key points throughout the block, ready to respond, but invisible to anyone who didn't know they were there. Walter sat on the bed in the empty cell and closed his eye. His body ached. His joints protested. His muscles felt slower than they used to, but his mind was clear. His training was intact, and his instincts were as sharp as they had ever been. He thought about Sarah, about the daughter he had abandoned to keep her safe, about the 15 years of her life he had missed, about the grandchildren he might have if he lived long enough to meet them. He thought about Miguel, about the young man who had shown more courage than people twice his age, about the potential he saw in him, about the future he hoped Miguel would have. He thought about Titan, about the enemy who had become an ally, about the transformation that was possible even in the darkest places, about the power of mercy over revenge. And he thought about Chen, about the man who had spent 15 years nursing a hatred that consumed everything else, about what that kind of obsession did to a person, about whether Chen was even capable of peace anymore. At 1:55 a.m., Walter opened his eyes. It was time. The first operative came through the ventilation system. Quiet, professional, exactly as Walter expected. He dropped into the cell with a knife in hand, moving toward the bed where a shape lay under the blanket. Except the shape wasn't Walter. It was pillows. The operative realized his mistake a fraction of a second too late. Walter emerged from the shadows behind him. One hand on the wrist, one hand on the throat. A twist, a squeeze. The knife clattered to the floor. The operative tried to call out. No sound came. 30 seconds later, he was unconscious. Walter lowered him to the ground and positioned himself for the second one. The door opened. 2 operatives this time moving in formation. They had heard the commotion and adjusted their approach. Check him, Tony, one said, gesturing toward their fallen comrade. The other moved toward the body. Walter struck from above. He had climbed to the top bunk in the seconds between them entering and them spotting their unconscious teammate. Now he dropped, using gravity and momentum to drive his elbow into the second operative's skull. The man crumpled instantly. The third operative spun knife extended, but Walter was already moving. He grabbed the man's arm, redirected the blade, and used the operative's own momentum to slam him face first into the wall. Once. Twice. The operative went limp. 3 professionals. 45 seconds. Walter stood among their bodies, breathing hard. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. His body was screaming at him that he was too old for this. But he was alive. And they weren't. He reached down and checked pulses. All three were alive. Just unconscious. He walked to the cell door and knocked twice. Morrison's agents flooded in within seconds. They secured the operatives, collected evidence, documented everything. Morrison herself arrived a moment later. You could have been killed. I wasn't. 3 trained assassins, Crawford. What if one of them had gotten lucky? They didn't. Morrison shook her head, but there was something like respect in her eyes. We'll interrogate them, get them to flip on Chen, build the case. How long? Days, maybe weeks. I don't have weeks. You do now. Chen's best people just got captured. He's going to panic, make mistakes. We'll find him. Walter looked at the unconscious operatives being carried away. He won't stop. Even if you arrest him, even if you put him away, he'll find a way to keep coming. That's not your problem anymore. That's the justice system's problem. The justice system is why he had 15 years to plan this. Morrison stepped closer. Listen to me. You've done enough. You took down his operatives. You gave us the evidence we need. Let us finish this. And if you can't, then we'll figure something else out. But it won't involve you going off like some kind of 73-year-old vigilante. Walter was quiet for a moment. I need to see my daughter. Morrison's expression softened. I can arrange that. Give me 48 hours to secure Chen's network, and I'll personally escort you to protective custody. You can see Sarah. Talk to her. Start rebuilding whatever relationship you can. 48 hours. That's the best I can do. Walter nodded slowly. Okay. 48 hours? He walked out of the cell. Collins was waiting in the corridor. Is it over? For now? What does that mean? Walter looked at him. It means Chen is still out there. It means he's going to be more desperate than ever. It means the next 48 hours are going to be the most dangerous we've faced. What do we do, Maz? We stay alert. We watch each other's backs. And we pray that Morrison is as good as she thinks she is. Collins nodded. I'll spread the word. Raymond. So, Walter put a hand on his shoulder. Whatever happens next, I want you to know something. You're a good man. You always were. You just needed someone to remind you. Collins felt his throat tighten. Walter, get some rest. We'll need it. He walked away before Collins could respond. At 4:30 a.m., David Chen received a message. Operation failed. All 3 operatives captured. FBI involved. Recommend immediate extraction. He read the message. Read it again. Then he threw his phone against the wall. 15 years. 15 years of planning, of building, of waiting. And it had all fallen apart because of one old man who refused to die. Chen sat in the darkness of his office thinking about everything he had lost. His brother, his family, his empire, his future. All because of William Crawford, the man who called himself Walter Crane, the ghost who had destroyed everything. Chen picked up his backup phone and dialed a number he had hoped he would never need to use. I need the package, he said, the one we discussed. Silence on the other end. Are you sure there's no coming back from that? I'm sure. It will cost everything you have left. I don't care. I want him dead. I want everyone who helped him dead. I want Blackstone Federal Penitentiary to burn to the ground with everyone inside. A long pause. It will be done. Chen hung up the phone. In 48 hours, one way or another, this would be over. And David Chen was going to make sure William Crawford watched everything he cared about die before the end. The package arrived at Blackstone at 6:47 a.m. It came disguised as a routine supply delivery. Medical equipment, cleaning supplies, nothing that would raise suspicion, nothing that would trigger additional inspections. But hidden inside one of the crates was enough C4 explosive to level an entire cell block. Chen's final solution. If he couldn't kill Walter Crawford surgically, he would kill him along with everyone else. The FBI, the inmates, the guards, everyone who had helped the old man survive. Let them dig through the rubble and try to figure out what happened. By then, David Chen would be on a plane to somewhere without extradition treaties watching the news and smiling. At 7:15 a.m., Morrison's phone rang. Agent Morrison, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Our surveillance picked up chatter about a package, something being delivered to Blackstone this morning. We don't know what it is, but the language suggests it's catastrophic. Morrison's blood ran cold. Evacuate the prison? That's going to take hours, 500 inmates, dozens of staff. We'd Then start now. I want everyone out of that building. She hung up and started running. Walter was in the cafeteria when the alarm started. The sound was different from the usual warnings. Longer, more urgent. The kind of alarm that meant something serious was happening. Guards began moving through the room, shouting orders. Everyone back to your cells. This is not a drill. Move now. Collins appeared beside Walter. What's happening? I don't know, but it's not good. They moved with the crowd, following the flow of inmates toward the cell blocks. But Walter's instincts were screaming at him. Something was wrong. Something beyond a simple emergency. He grabbed a passing guard. What's going on? Bomb threat. FBI is evacuating the building. Walter felt his stomach drop. Chen. This was Chen's response to losing his operatives. If he couldn't kill Walter quietly, he would kill everyone loudly. Where's the bomb? They don't know. Could be anywhere. We're searching now. Walter released the guard and turned to Collins. Find Miguel. Find Titan. Get them out of the building. Now. What about you? I'm going to find that bomb. Walter, that's insane. Let the professionals handle it. The professionals don't know this prison like I do. They don't know Chen like I do, and they don't have 40 years of experience dealing with situations exactly like this. He started moving against the flow of inmates pushing toward the interior of the building. Collins shouted after him, Walter, Walter. But the old man was already gone. Morrison reached Blackstone at 7:32 a.m. The scene was chaos. Inmates being herded toward the yard, guards running in every direction, FBI agents trying to coordinate a search while hundreds of people moved around them. She found Donovan near the main entrance. Status. We've cleared blocks A and B, C and D are still in progress. The dogs haven't found anything yet. They won't. Chen is too smart to use something the dogs would detect. Then how do we find it? Morrison scanned the crowd. Where's Crawford? Donovan's face went pale. He went back inside. Said he was going to find the bomb himself. He what? I couldn't stop him. Nobody could. Morrison started running toward the building. Walter moved through the corridors like a ghost. The prison was emptying around him, inmates being evacuated, guards clearing sections. The usual noise and chaos of Blackstone replaced by the eerie sound of urgent footsteps and shouted orders. He thought about Chen, about how the man operated, about where he would place a bomb if he wanted to cause maximum damage. Not the cell blocks, too much concrete. The blast would be contained. Not the yard, too open. People would survive. It had to be somewhere central, somewhere that would bring down multiple sections at once. The cafeteria numbered too obvious. The administration building possible. But Chen wanted inmates dead, not just staff. Then it hit him. The chapel. It was in the center of the prison. The walls were thin. The foundation was old. And on Sunday mornings it held services that drew inmates from every block. Today was Sunday. Walter changed direction and started running. His body protested. His lungs burned. His joints screamed. But he kept moving, pushing through the pain, ignoring every signal his 73-year-old body was sending him. He reached the chapel in 4 minutes. The door was locked. Walter stepped back and kicked. The lock held. He kicked again. Again. On the fourth kick, the door burst open. He rushed inside. The chapel was empty. Rows of chairs. A simple altar. A wooden cross on the wall. And beneath the altar, a black case that didn't belong there. Walter approached slowly. The case was military grade, reinforced. The kind used for transporting sensitive equipment. He knelt down and examined it carefully. No visible wires. No timer display. Nothing that would indicate how much time he had. He opened the case. Inside was enough C4 to destroy half the prison. And a digital timer counting down from 4:37. 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Walter's hands were steady as he examined the device. He had disarmed bombs before. Many times. In many countries. Under much worse conditions. But those were different bombs. Different configurations. Different triggers. This one was sophisticated. Professional. Designed by someone who knew what they were doing. He traced the wires carefully. Red, blue, yellow, green. Each one connected to a different component of the detonator. Cut the wrong one and the bomb would explode immediately. Cut the right one and he might survive. 3:52. Walter took a deep breath. He thought about Sarah. About the daughter he had just reconnected with. About the possibility of seeing her again. Holding her. Telling her everything he should have told her 15 years ago. He thought about Miguel. About the young man who had found his courage. About the future that waited for him outside these walls. He thought about Collins. about the veteran who had finally chosen to be the good man he always was. He thought about Titan, about the enemy who had become an ally, about the transformation that proved anyone could change. 3:21. Walter focused on the bomb. His training told him the blue wire was the trigger. Cut it and the circuit would break. The detonator would be disabled. But his instincts told him something was wrong. The configuration was too obvious, too standard. Chen knew Walter's background, knew his training, knew what he would expect. This was a trap within a trap. 2:54. Walter looked closer. There, hidden beneath the main detonator. A secondary trigger, connected to the green wire, not the blue. Cut the blue wire and the secondary trigger would activate. Instant detonation. Chen had anticipated everything. 2:31. Walter reached for the green wire. His hands weren't shaking. They never shook, not when it mattered. He positioned his fingers around the wire. 2:15. He pulled. The wire came free. Nothing happened. The timer continued counting. 2:08. Something was still wrong. Walter examined the device again. The timer was still active. The bomb was still armed. Cutting the green wire should have disabled the primary detonator, but there was another layer. A failsafe. 1:47. Walter traced the remaining wires. Found what he was looking for. A pressure plate hidden beneath the C4 itself. Move the explosive and the plate would trigger. The bomb was designed to be impossible to disarm. 1:23. Walter sat back on his heels. He couldn't disarm it. Couldn't move it. Couldn't do anything but sit here and watch the timer count down to 0. Unless... His eyes went to the case itself. Heavy, reinforced, military grade. Designed to contain explosions, not just transport them. If he closed the case, sealed it, the blast would be directed inward instead of outward. It wouldn't stop the explosion, but it might contain it enough to save the building, save the people still evacuating. 1:02. Walter started closing the case. The hinges were stiff. The seal was tight. He had to use all his strength to force it shut. 0047. The case clicked closed. But the seal needed pressure to hold, constant pressure, something heavy enough to keep the lid down when the blast tried to blow it open. Walter looked around the empty chapel. There was nothing. No weights, no furniture, nothing that would work. 031. He made his decision. He threw himself on top of the case, his body weight pressed down on the lid, his arms wrapped around the edges, his chest flattened against the cold metal. 019. Walter closed his eyes. He thought about his life, about the things he had done, the people he had killed, the missions he had completed. He thought about the things he regretted, the years lost, the relationships destroyed, the humanity he had traded for effectiveness. And he thought about the things that mattered, Sarah's voice on the phone, Miguel's courage, Collins's friendship, even Titan's redemption. Maybe this was how it was supposed to end, the assassin giving his life to save others. The weapon becoming a shield instead of a sword. 007, 006, 005. The chapel door burst open. Walter. Morrison's voice. He didn't look up, couldn't look up. If he moved, the seal would break. "Get out!" he shouted. "Get everyone out, now. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. 3 seconds. 003, 002, 001. The blast hit like the fist of God. Even contained by the case, even dampened by Walter's body, the explosion was devastating. The floor beneath him cracked. The air around him turned to fire. The sound was so loud it became silence. Walter felt himself lifted, thrown, slammed against something hard, then nothing. Morrison was thrown backward by the shockwave. She hit the wall hard enough to see stars. Her ears were ringing, her vision was blurred, but she was alive. She struggled to her feet and looked at the chapel. The altar was gone. The chairs were scattered, the walls were cracked but standing, and in the center of the destruction, lying motionless on the floor, was Walter Crawford. "Medic!" Morrison screamed. "I need a medic in here now!" She rushed to Walter's side. He was breathing, barely. His body was burned, bleeding, broken in ways she couldn't count, but he was breathing. "Hold on," she said, pressing her hands against his chest. "Hold on, you stubborn old bastard. Help is coming." Walter's eyes opened, barely, just enough to see her face. "Did it work?" he whispered. Yes, it worked. The building is still standing. Everyone is safe." Walter smiled slightly. "Good." His eyes closed. No, stay with me. Walter. But he was already gone. Not dead. Not yet. but somewhere else. Somewhere deep inside himself, where the pain couldn't reach. The medics arrived 30 seconds later. They worked on him for 12 minutes before they got a stable heartbeat. They worked on him for another 20 before they could move him. And they worked on him for 3 hours in surgery before the doctors finally came out to deliver their verdict. He was alive. Against all odds, against all medical probability, against everything his 73-year-old body should have been able to survive. William Crawford was alive. 2 weeks later, the world looked different. David Chen was arrested in Singapore trying to board a flight to Myanmar. The FBI had traced his communications, found his accounts, built a case so airtight that even his army of lawyers couldn't find a crack. He would spend the rest of his life in a federal supermax prison, alone, forgotten, exactly what he had tried to do to Walter. The 3 operatives captured at Blackstone cooperated fully. Their testimony exposed Chen's entire network. Dozens of arrests followed. The organization that had spent 15 years rebuilding was dismantled in less than a month. And in a hospital room in Phoenix, Arizona, Walter Crawford opened his eyes to find his daughter sitting beside his bed. "Hey, Dad?" Her voice was soft, gentle, the voice of someone who had been waiting a very long time. "Sarah." She took his hand. Her fingers were warm against his bandaged skin. "The doctors say you're going to be okay. It's going to take time, but you're going to recover." "How long have you been here?" 12 days, ever since they transferred you out of Blackstone." She smiled through tears. "I wasn't going to let you die without me this time." Walter felt something break inside him. Not pain, something else. Something that had been frozen for 15 years finally thawing. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything, for leaving, for lying, for making you think I was dead, for missing your wedding, for missing your life, for all of it." "I know. I wanted to protect you. I thought if you believed I was gone, they would leave you alone. I thought..." "Dad," she squeezed his hand, "I understand. I didn't at first, but Agent Morrison explained everything. What you did, why you did it, the people you protected, the sacrifices you made. Those sacrifices included you." "Yes, they did." Sarah leaned closer. "And I'm not going to pretend that didn't hurt. It did. It still does. But you're here now. You're alive. And we have time. Time to heal. Time to talk. Time to be a family again." Walter felt tears on his cheeks. He hadn't cried in 40 years. Hadn't allowed himself to feel that vulnerable. Now he couldn't stop. "I love you," he said. "I never stopped. Not for a single day." "I love you too, Dad. I never stopped either." They held hands in silence for a long time. Later that day, Walter had more visitors. Collins came first. The veteran looked different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "You look terrible," Collins said, sitting down beside the bed. "You should see the other guy." Collins laughed. "I heard about Chen. Couldn't have happened to a nicer psychopath." "How's Blackstone?" "Recovering. The chapel is gone, obviously, but the rest of the building survived. They're calling it a miracle." "It wasn't a miracle. It was physics." "It was you, Walter. You saved everyone. 500 inmates, dozens of guards. All those people are alive because of what you did." Walter was quiet for a moment. "I spent 40 years taking lives. Maybe this balances things a little." "Maybe it does." Collins leaned forward. "I got some news. They're transferring me to minimum security. Good behavior. Time served. I might actually get out of here in a few years." "That's good, Raymond. You deserve it." "I don't know about deserve, but I'll take it." He stood up. "Get better, old man. The world needs more people like you." "The world has plenty of people like me. What it needs is more people like you. People who choose to be good even when it's hard." Collins nodded slowly. "I'll try to remember that." He left. Miguel came next. The young man stood in the doorway, uncertain, like he wasn't sure he belonged there. "Come in," Walter said. Miguel approached slowly. His eyes were red. He had been crying. "I thought you were dead," he said. "When they told us what happened, when they said you threw yourself on a bomb, I thought, I'm hard to kill. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be." Walter gestured to the chair beside his bed. "Sit down." Miguel sat. "I talked to Agent Morrison," Walter said. "Told her about you, about what you did, about the courage you showed standing up to Titan." "That wasn't courage. That was stupidity." "It was both. The best acts of courage usually are." Walter shifted slightly, wincing at the pain. She's going to recommend early release. Good behavior. Your testimony about Chen's network. You could be out in 2 years instead of 5. Miguel's eyes widened. Are you serious? Completely serious. You have a chance, Miguel, a real chance to build the life we talked about. Don't waste it. Tears spilled down Miguel's cheeks. I don't know what to say. Say you'll make something of yourself. Say you'll take care of your mother and your sister. Say you'll be the man I know you can be. I will. I promise I will. Walter reached out and took his hand. I believe you. The final visitor was unexpected. Titan arrived in handcuffs, escorted by 2 federal marshals. He stood in the doorway, massive and uncomfortable, looking at the broken old man in the hospital bed. They gave me 5 minutes, he said. Part of my cooperation agreement. Cooperation agreement. I'm testifying against Chen's network. Everything I know, everyone I dealt with. In exchange, I get reduced time. Maybe protective custody instead of general population. That's good, Marcus. It's terrifying is what it is. Titan moved closer. The marshals tensed but didn't stop him. I spent my whole life being the biggest and the strongest. Now I'm going to be a rat, a snitch, everything I used to hate. You're going to be a man who chose the right thing over the easy thing. That's not weakness, that's growth. Titan was quiet for a moment. You really believe that... I believe that people can change. I've seen it. In you, in Miguel, in myself. Walter met his eyes. The man you were when I arrived at Blackstone isn't the man standing in front of me now. That means something. What does it mean? It means there's hope for all of us. No matter what we've done, no matter how far we've fallen, there's always a chance to climb back up. Titan's jaw tightened. I don't know if I believe that. You don't have to believe it yet. You just have to act like you believe it. The belief comes later. The marshal stepped forward. Time's up. Titan nodded. He started to turn away, then stopped. Crawford? Yes. Thank you for not killing me when you had the chance, for showing me there was another way. Walter smiled slightly. Thank you for proving me right. Titan was escorted out. Walter lay back against his pillows and closed his eyes. His body hurt. Every breath was a battle. Every movement was agony. The road to recovery would be long and brutal and uncertain, but he was alive, and for the first time in 40 years, that felt like enough. 3 months later, Walter walked out of the rehabilitation center on his own 2 feet. Sarah was waiting for him in the parking lot. Her car was packed with boxes. His boxes. Things she had kept in storage for 15 years, believing she would never see him again. Ready, though? She asked. I think so. The house is small. It's not fancy, but there's a room for you and a garden. You always liked gardens. Walter looked at his daughter, at the woman she had become, at the strength and grace and kindness, Takritukas that had somehow survived despite everything he had put her through. It sounds perfect. They drove for 2 hours. Through desert and mountains and small towns that Walter had never seen, through a world that had kept spinning while he spent 40 years in the shadows. The house was exactly as Sarah described. Small, simple, a garden in the back with flowers just starting to bloom. Walter stood in the doorway for a long moment, taking it in. What do you think? Sarah asked. I think I'm home. She hugged him, carefully because his ribs were still healing, but tightly enough that he could feel how much she loved him. Welcome home, Dad. That evening they sat on the porch and watched the sun set over the Arizona desert. Sarah had made dinner, real food, home-cooked, the kind of meal Walter hadn't had in decades. I have something to tell you, she said. What is it? I'm pregnant, 3 months. You're going to be a grandfather. Walter felt something crack open in his chest, something he didn't know was still there. A grandfather. I wanted to wait until you were better to tell you. I wanted you to have something to look forward to. A grandfather. He said it again, tasting the word, testing its weight. I never imagined. You have 5.5 months to get used to the idea. Walter looked at his daughter, at the life growing inside her, at the future that had seemed impossible just 3 months ago. What's the father like? His name is James. He's a teacher. History. He's kind and patient, and he makes me laugh. You'll like him. If he makes you happy, I already like him. Sarah smiled. There's something else. We've been talking about names. If it's a boy, we want to name him William, after you. Walter's vision blurred. Sarah, You don't have to say anything, just know that we want him to carry your name, to carry something of who you are into the future." Walter reached over and took her hand. "I spent 40 years believing I didn't deserve a family, didn't deserve happiness, didn't deserve anything except the mission and the shadows and the endless cycle of violence." He squeezed her fingers. "I was wrong. About all of it. The things I did, the people I was. None of that matters as much as this moment. Right here, right now, with you. Dad, I'm going to be here, Sarah, for you, for your husband, for my grandson. I'm going to be present. I'm going to make up for all the years I lost. I'm going to be the father and grandfather I should have been all along." Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder. "That's all I ever wanted." They sat together in silence as the sun disappeared below the horizon. 1 year later, Walter held his grandson for the first time, William James Mitchell. 8 pounds 4 ounces. Perfect in every way. The baby's eyes opened and looked up at him. Curious. Trusting. Completely unaware of the world he had been born into. Walter felt tears on his cheeks again. He didn't try to stop them anymore. "Hello, William," he whispered. "I'm your grandfather, and I'm going to tell you stories. About courage, about mercy, about the power of choosing who you want to be instead of accepting who the world tells you to be." The baby gurgled. "I'm going to teach you that strength isn't about muscles or weapons or fear. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. It's about protecting the people you love, even when it costs you everything. It's about being kind in a world that often isn't." Walter looked up at Sarah, who was watching from her hospital bed with tears streaming down her face. "And I'm going to make sure you know that no matter what happens, no matter how far you fall, no matter how lost you get, you can always come back. You can always change. You can always choose to be better." He pressed his lips gently to his grandson's forehead. "That's the most important thing I learned. After 74 years, after everything I did, after all the darkness and violence and pain," he smiled, "it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be." The baby closed his eyes and slept peacefully in his grandfather's arms. And Walter Crawford, the man who had spent his life as a weapon, finally found his peace. Not through violence, not through strength, not through fear, but through love, through family, through the simple, profound truth that mercy is stronger than revenge, that hope is stronger than despair, and that even the darkest soul can find its way back to the light. The prison bully had intimidated everyone, until an old assassin defeated him, not with fists, not with weapons, but with the one thing no amount of strength can overcome: the courage to change.